This is breaking news, and what you're about to hear may completely change how you look at viral political stories online. A claim is spreading at lightning speed, shared as fact, repeated as certainty, and framed as inevitable collapse. It says a major international bank is demanding hundreds of millions of dollars immediately, that deadlines are set, assets are frozen, accountants have fled, and a financial empire is about to fall apart. It sounds explosive. It sounds devastating. And most importantly, it sounds exactly like the kind of story people want to believe. But tonight, we are slowing this down, piece by piece, and what we uncover is far more disturbing than the claim itself. Because this isn't just about one fake story. This is about how misinformation is engineered, packaged, and sold to look like breaking news. The story claims Deutsche Bank is demanding immediate repayment of over $500 million in loans from Donald Trump on December 31st, 2025, with a January 15th deadline looming. It claims this is connected to Mazars quitting, assets being frozen, and an unstoppable financial collapse. And before we even touch whether Deutsche Bank is actually demanding anything, there is something deeply revealing hiding in plain sight. The story proudly lists 13 sources, clearly intended to signal credibility, seriousness, and research. But when those sources are actually examined, the illusion collapses almost instantly. Sources 1 through 8, more than half the list, have nothing to do with Trump's business loans, Deutsche Bank, or commercial real estate financing. Instead, they are about student loan forgiveness, federal garnishment programs, borrower advocacy, and government-backed education debt. Let that reality sink in. A story claiming a private international bank is calling Trump's personal business loan cites 8 articles about federal student loan programs. These subjects are not just unrelated. They exist in completely different financial universes. This is not a mistake. This is a tactic. This tactic is known as source list padding. It is one of the clearest warning signs of manufactured credibility. The goal is not to inform. The goal is to overwhelm. The creators are counting on readers seeing a long list of familiar outlets and assuming legitimacy without checking relevance. They are counting on you not clicking all 13 links. They are counting on the fact that volume feels like proof, even when the sources don't support the claims at all. And then comes the emotional pivot. The story frames this as happening on a crucial day in Trump's New York fraud trial, described as a lethal threat to his business. It claims the spotlight has shifted to the real money behind his fortune. It references testimony from a former Deutsche Bank executive, describing how hundreds of millions in loans were arranged starting in 2011. It reminds viewers that Deutsche Bank was once the only institution willing to lend to Trump, fueling major real estate projects in Florida, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and New York. These background details are real, and that's precisely why they are used. The New York Attorney General has accused Trump of inflating his net worth to obtain favorable loan terms. The long, turbulent relationship between Trump and Deutsche Bank does indeed go back decades. It began in the 1990s with 40 Wall Street. In 2008, the relationship nearly collapsed after a bitter fight over the Chicago Tower loan, a dispute so intense that Trump sued the bank during the financial crisis itself. The loan was renegotiated, but the damage was done. Deutsche Bank publicly distanced itself, and internally, Trump became radioactive. And yet, despite that history, Deutsche Bank continued to be one of the few institutions willing to do business with him. This context is accurate. It is documented. It is not the lie. The lie comes next, because the story leaps from historical background into an explosive present-day claim. It asserts that Deutsche Bank is now, suddenly, demanding immediate repayment of all outstanding Trump loans because of Mazars quitting and assets being frozen. This is where specificity becomes the weapon. December 31st, January 15th, 450 million, 500 million total exposure. These numbers are delivered with confidence, not evidence. So the most important question becomes unavoidable. If this were real, where's the reporting? Where are the filings? Where are the statements? Where are the legal challenges? A demand of this magnitude would be seismic financial news. It would not exist quietly on YouTube, thumbnails, and advocacy blogs. It would dominate Bloomberg terminals. It would appear in the Wall Street Journal. It would be dissected by the Financial Times. It would trigger immediate legal response. And yet, when credible financial journalism is searched, There is nothing. No confirmation. No reporting. No independent verification. Silence. That silence is not neutral. It is decisive. This story is not standing alone. It is stitched together from recycled falsehoods we have already seen. Mazars quitting, which actually happened in 2022, is repackaged as a new 2025 development. Claims of frozen assets remain unverified. Allegations of witnesses flipping, documents being unsealed, political allies revolting, constitutional mechanisms being triggered, all reappear here as supporting pillars. This is compilation misinformation. Multiple debunked stories are bundled together into a single, overwhelming narrative designed to feel unstoppable. Now look again at the sources. Sources 9 through 13 are not journalism. They are YouTube commentary, speculative videos, advocacy pages repeating each other without verification. But when they are placed alongside legitimate news articles about unrelated student loan policy, the entire list is made to look uniformly credible. This is not accidental. It is deliberate misdirection. Understanding how commercial lending actually works makes the claim even weaker. Banks do not randomly call loans. Loan agreements contain specific acceleration clauses. These clauses require defined triggering events such as default, bankruptcy, or covenant violations. The story claims the triggers are Mazars quitting and assets being frozen. But Mazars left years ago, and the asset freeze remains unproven. Even if both were real, whether they trigger acceleration depends entirely on private contract language we do not have access to. And here is the critical reality. When banks accelerate major loans, it leaves a trail. Legal filings, negotiations, public statements, market reaction. We have seen this before. When major borrowers face lender pressure, it is reported with detail, sourcing, and analysis. This story offers none of that. It offers only certainty without evidence. Yes, Trump faces real financial pressure. Legal judgments are real. Bond requirements are real. Legal fees are real. But pressure is not default. Risk is not acceleration. Possibility is not reality. Fake stories thrive by converting could into has and might into is happening now. This narrative also relies heavily on emotional payoff. It promises collapse. It promises consequences. It promises satisfaction. And that emotional reward is precisely why skepticism matters most here. When a story gives you exactly what you want to hear, that is the moment verification matters most. There is no credible reporting that Deutsche Bank is demanding repayment on December 31st, 2025. More than half the cited sources are irrelevant. The remaining sources lack journalistic credibility. The claims rely on previously debunked events. The specificity is unsupported. The silence from real financial journalism is overwhelming. The reality is more restrained, more complex, and far less dramatic. Trump faces ongoing legal and financial challenges. The details of his private loan agreements remain private. Anything beyond that is speculation dressed up as breaking news. And this is the lesson. Always read the sources. Always check relevance. Always separate background facts from claimed developments. Understand how real financial systems operate. And most importantly, never confuse emotional satisfaction with factual truth. So as we come to the end of this breaking story, what matters most is not just what was claimed, but what was proven, and more importantly, what was missing. Because in real breaking news, facts leave footprints. They leave documents. They leave filings, confirmations, and independent verification. And tonight, after stripping away the noise, the outrage, the dramatic deadlines, and the explosive numbers, what we are left with is something far more telling than any viral headline. We are left with silence where evidence should be. There is no verified confirmation that a major international bank is demanding immediate repayment of hundreds of millions of dollars. There is no court filing, no emergency motion, no lender statement, no reporting from serious financial journalists. And in a world where financial markets react within minutes, where legal actions are documented instantly, and where major institutions do not operate in secrecy, that absence speaks louder than any accusation ever could. This story did not collapse because it was challenged by opinion. It collapsed because it could not survive verification. The dates did not hold up. The triggers did not align with reality. The sources did not support the claims. And the structure of the story itself revealed its true purpose. It was not built to inform. It was built to convince. What we witnessed was not breaking news. It was engineered urgency. Carefully selected facts were mixed with recycled falsehoods, stitched together with emotional language, and wrapped in a padded source list designed to discourage scrutiny. The goal was never accuracy. The goal was momentum. Because in the misinformation economy, speed matters more than truth, and belief spreads faster than correction. And this is the most important takeaway tonight. Misinformation does not usually arrive as something obviously false. It arrives polished. It arrives confident. It arrives with links, dates, dollar figures, and authoritative tone. It mimics journalism while abandoning its standards. It borrows credibility instead of earning it. And it relies on one assumption above all else, that most people will not slow down and check. But when you do slow down, when you examine the claims instead of the emotions, the illusion disappears. Real financial crises do not unfold on anonymous blogs. Real loan accelerations do not happen without legal trails. Real breaking news does not exist only in reaction videos and speculative commentary. It exists where accountability lives, where editors demand proof, and where facts can be challenged. Yes, there are real pressures. Yes, there are real legal battles. Yes, there are real financial consequences playing out over time. But reality is complex, gradual, and documented. It does not arrive as a perfectly scripted collapse, tied neatly to unrelated events. And it does not rely on student loan articles to justify claims about private banking decisions. What makes stories like this dangerous is not just that they are false. It is that they train audiences to accept shortcuts to belief. They teach people to trust volume over relevance, emotion over verification, and repetition over evidence. And once that habit forms, truth itself becomes harder to recognize. So the responsibility does not stop with debunking one story. The responsibility is recognizing the pattern. When dramatic claims appear without credible confirmation, pause. When source lists are long but irrelevant, question them. When multiple debunked narratives are bundled together, be skeptical. And when a story delivers exactly the outcome you want to see, double your scrutiny instead of lowering it. Because real accountability does not come from viral collapse narratives. It comes from verified facts, legal processes, and documented outcomes. Anything else is performance. And tonight, the performance has been exposed. This is not the end of scrutiny. It is the beginning of discernment. The next story will come. It will be louder. It will be faster. It will promise even bigger consequences. And when it does, the real breaking news will not be the claim itself, but how quickly people are willing to question it. That is where truth survives. And that is what actually matters. And that's where we leave it tonight. The reality is more restrained, more complex, and far less dramatic. Trump faces ongoing legal and financial challenges. The details of his private loan agreements remain private. Anything beyond that is speculation dressed up as breaking news. And this is the lesson. Always read the sources. Always check relevance. Always separate background facts from claimed developments. Understand how real financial systems operate. And most importantly, never confuse emotional satisfaction with factual truth.